Since the dawn of history, people have been drawn to the land that joins Europe to Asia. A land of warmth and great beauty. A land of mystery and charm. A land of infinite variety. The ancients called it Asia Minor, this privileged peninsula stretching over 1,000 miles from the deserts of Arabia to the islands of Greece, from the sun-drenched beaches of the Mediterranean to the rain-soaked forests of the Black Sea. The land of Apollo and Dionysus, of Artemis and Aphrodite. A source of inspiration for Homer, for Diogenes, and for the great philosopher Mevlana. The land that tempted Alexander the Great and Hannibal, Caesar and Marco Polo. A land of history and tradition, a land of contrasts and contradictions. A devout but secular Muslim country, yet the final resting place of the Virgin Mary. The home of the tulip, the cherry, and Father Christmas. A land of color and culture. A land that is quite simply unique. Turkey's position at the crossroads of East and West, where Occident meets Orient, has given it an important role in history. Indeed, it is one of the cradles of civilization as we know it. Eons before even Noah landed his ark on Mount Ararat, Turkey's tallest mountain, primitive man had recognized the attractions of these wonderful landscapes. Human remains 1 million years old have been found here, the oldest human remains in the world outside Africa. Some of the earliest towns and cities ever established were here on Anatolian soil. In the years that have flowed since those prehistoric settlers staked their claims here, great civilizations have risen and fallen. Empires have come and gone, all leaving their mark on Turkey. 1,000 years before the birth of Jesus Christ, the Hittite Empire rivaled that of ancient Egypt and left behind breathtaking works of art. The Phrygians under King Midas, who legend has it, turned all to gold. The Lydians, who turned gold into coins. And Persian intruders vied with the Greeks for Anatolia's charms, until Alexander the Great imposed his will on all of them, cut the Gordian knot, and spread his empire to cover half of the Middle East. The heartland of classical Hellenic culture was actually in Turkey, including the great cities of Troy, Ephesus, and Halicarnassus. The Romans also found Turkey irresistible. Antony gave part of it to Cleopatra as a wedding present, and it was here that Julius Caesar uttered his immortal statement, Veni, Vidi, Vici. Long after the barbarian hordes had descended on Rome, their civilization lived on in Anatolia, unaffected by the chaos in the West. In later centuries, the Byzantines and the Ottomans sought to weld Eastern and Western cultures before being swept aside in their turn by the Mongol hordes from Central Asia. So the ebb and flow of extraordinarily diverse cultural forces has played on Turkey over the centuries. The past is everywhere to be savored, and this rich cultural heritage reflected in everyday life. Forged in the present century into a modern state by the great leader Ataturk, Turkey is now a vibrant and dynamic country, with an infrastructure that increasingly reflects its growing wealth and international stature. Nowhere is that growing stature more evident than in the tourist sector. Turkey has made enormous strides in tourism over the past few years. It now commands 1.4% of global tourism revenues, amounting to $4 billion in 1992. This represents nearly 30% of all Turkish exports and provides jobs for over 250,000 people. The rapid growth in tourism has been matched by major infrastructure developments to accommodate the influx of over 7 million visitors a year, a number that is steadily growing. New hotels and holiday villages have been constructed that match the very best anywhere in the world for location, service, and facilities. Turkey now offers over 750,000 beds in licensed accommodation. The sporting, shopping and leisure facilities associated with these developments are well up to international standards and offer to visitors all the choice they would expect from even the most sophisticated holiday resorts. But here in Turkey, the modern facilities are matched with a level of service which is difficult to find elsewhere. And if it's luxury you want, then Turkey has quality accommodation of the highest standards. Istanbul can boast representatives of all the major international hotel chains. In fact, over 50% of Turkey's hotels have 3 or more stars. Overall, however, Turkey's tourism policy is aimed at providing accommodations to suit all tastes and all income levels. As one might expect from a country with 5,000 miles of magnificent coastline, water sports are highly developed in Turkey. Every conceivable form of water sport is catered for in some of the cleanest waters in Europe. Turkey has also been quick to recognize the growing market for holidays related to yachting and boating. With its thousands of islands, inlets, coves and bays, Turkey is a paradise for charter yachting enthusiasts, or those who simply enjoy being sailed around the warm blue waters of the Aegean by professional local crews in a traditional twin-masted Turkish goulet. To accommodate present and future demand for pleasure boating, Turkey has constructed a number of dramatic new yacht marinas. More will be added over the next few years, but already Turkey can offer over 7,500 berths in yachts as part of its total tourist accommodation. Istanbul offers all the services and facilities one would expect to find in a great city. Shopping in Istanbul, as everywhere in Turkey, is a unique experience, and the preservation of traditional bazaars alongside ultra-modern shopping malls and the big department stores is further evidence of Turkey's ability to combine the best of the past with the best of the present. Although steeped in history and culture at this crossroads of Eastern and Western civilizations, Istanbul has not sacrificed tradition for modernity, but achieves a unique and admirable marriage of the two. 10,000 years of history breeds wisdom, and Turkey is conducting no headlong dash into modernity. The Turkish people are profoundly aware that they are custodians of a privileged inheritance, both natural and man-made, and it is an inheritance they intend to protect at all costs. The protection of wildlife in Turkey, for example, has a high priority. Whether it's turtles, pelicans, bears or flamingos, there is a firm government policy to safeguard their habitats and breeding grounds. The program to protect the loggerhead turtles who live in the fresh waters of the Dalian Delta is world famous. The Turkish government is, for example, implementing a campaign to rid the streets of Istanbul of so-called dancing bears and return them to their native forests. The aim is clear, a natural balance between man and his environment that is both socially responsible and preserves the natural advantages that have attracted people to Turkey since time began. Turkey's beaches and the sea that surrounds it are among the cleanest in the world. This has been achieved by conducting a vigorous protection and conservation policy, a policy which was instituted long before current fashionable trends in environmental consciousness. It certainly makes sound ecological sense, but it also makes commercial sense. The holiday visitor of the 1990s is becoming increasingly environmentally aware. Clean beaches and safe swimming conditions will be an increasingly important requirement for holidaymakers, particularly those with young families. Nature has indeed been generous to Turkey. The beauty and variety of its landscapes is stunning, and they too are heavily protected. Turkey has more land per capita of population devoted to national parks than any other urbanized nation. Many of its most famous historical sites are surrounded by and embraced within national parks, thus preserving both nature and history. The conservation of historical, cultural, and natural assets is enshrined within the Turkish constitution. Wherever possible, the requirements of man and nature are allowed to mingle with the minimum of intrusion. In popular locations such as the pools of Pamukkale, constant care has to be taken to prevent deterioration of this fragile site. That precious commodity in a hot country, fresh water, is particularly highly valued in Turkey, and its rivers, lakes, and waterfalls are subject to strict pollution controls. To bathe in a clear Turkish lake under the Turkish sun is a supreme pleasure. Even in a large commercial and industrial city like Istanbul, the quality of the environment is exceptionally high compared to its European neighbors. Increasing control of the use of fossil fuels will continue to improve air quality. Environmental consciousness is high in Turkey, a result of long-standing government awareness programs. Turkey is a nation at one with itself and nature. Its aspirations to be a paradise preserved are not misplaced. In Turkey, the past lives with the present. The richness of its historical remains is matched only by the determination to preserve them. Turkey actually possesses more ancient cities and classical ruins than Greece itself, and one of the finest is here at Ephesus. Along this marble street, gladiators once marched to combat. In this amphitheater, St. Paul once preached. Ephesus was a great trading and religious city, renowned for its wealth and beauty. Here, the Romans worshipped Diana, the virgin goddess of the hunt and the moon. The temple they erected to her became one of the 7 wonders of the world, ranking alongside Turkey's other great wonder, the mausoleum at Halikarnassus. The high level of preservation achieved at Ephesus can be seen in the magnificent facade of the Library of Celsus. St. John is said to have lived in Ephesus, writing his gospel here and returning here for the remainder of his life. The first church ever was founded in Turkey at Antioch, and the Virgin Mary is said to have returned to live in this house after the death of Christ. sites in the world can be so packed with history, so full of legend? Many other classical sites cover the Turkish countryside. Some have been partly reconstructed, such as the gymnasium at the ancient city of Sardis, capital of the Lydian Empire. Selective and careful reconstruction is very much part of Turkish policy on ancient monuments, so that they may be appreciated in the way that they once served ancient civilizations, and thus add to the visitor's experience. Later civilizations have also left their mark on Turkey. Castles, fortresses and citadels stand proudly on hilltops and cliffs, proclaiming Turkey's historical pedigree. Here too, reconstruction has been employed to great effect. The citadel of Selçuk, which rises above the Basilica of St. John near Ephesus, was largely rebuilt in the present century. Earlier inhabitants of Anatolia left different kinds of structures in Cappadocia, part of central Anatolia. These dwellings, carved out of sheer pinnacles of volcanic rock, offered safety and seclusion for religious refugees in the early centuries of the first millennium. Entire cities have been chiseled out of these volcanic deposits, including over 500 churches, many ornately decorated. The impressive though modest cave dwellings of Cappadocia contrast starkly with these monuments of actual or assumed greatness, also carved out of the rock near Dalian by the Lycian kings of the 4th century BC. The porticos of some of these temple tombs stand over 100 feet high and are visible for miles around. Although territorial ambition has fueled much of Anatolian history, religion has always been the predominant force, and Turkey's most significant historical buildings are probably its mosques, synagogues, and churches. Churches such as the magnificent Hagia Sophia in Istanbul, a miracle of graceful engineering built by the Emperor Justinian to be the greatest church in Christendom. And the Blue Mosque, with its 6 minarets, guiding eyes and spirits to the heavens. The delicacy and elegance of its structure is quite breathtaking. The Ottoman Empire left behind wonderful palaces, of which the Topkapi in Istanbul is perhaps the most famous.